Good evening, Yorktown. It's Supervisor Matt Slater coming to you from Town Hall with another COVID update. Today is Monday, November 23rd. We begin this week with 40 new confirmed cases for the town of Yorktown. That gives us a total of 175 active cases. We ended last week with 168, so that obviously doesn't add up correctly. So let me explain why. Again, as we've said multiple times, the active caseload is a 14-day period. Automatically, after 14 days, active cases drop off that list. It doesn't matter if they are symptomatic, asymptomatic, hospitalized. We don't get that information. It's just a 14-day window that we consider, and the health department and the state of New York considers an active case. So again, we ended last week with 168. We've had 40 new, which means positive tests over the weekend, bringing our new total of active cases in the town of Yorktown to 175. Here in Westchester County, I was on a conference call this afternoon with our county executive, George Latimer, and other municipal leaders, as well as the county executive's staff, who've done a great job, by the way. Here in Westchester County, we have now tested over 1 million people, or have over 1 million tests performed. But that's the good news. The bad news is we've now surpassed 1,500 deaths in Westchester County, as we've had 12 Westchester County residents pass away from COVID last week. Hospitalizations county-wide are as follows. We have 168 Westchester residents hospitalized. Now, that number has continued to increase over the last 3 weeks. The week before, we were at 121. The week before that, we were at 79. Again, we're starting at 168 here. Now, that also correlates with what we heard today from Governor Cuomo, who provided more information to the public. Statewide hospitalization rate has increased over the last 3 weeks by 122%. Again, that's statewide. We're not sharing this to scare anybody. We're sharing it to give you the facts of the situation. Governor Cuomo today also projected that as that trend line continues, which is what we've been focused on trajectories. And so as that trend line continues, we could see an increase of statewide hospitalizations to 6,000 New Yorkers. And again, that's with the current trend and not with any bump from the coming holiday of Thanksgiving. One of the reasons I believe the governor has been warning the public about large gatherings for Thanksgiving, and the numbers, as I just showed you, potentially is 6,000 hospitalizations on the current trend. Cluster zones remain in effect in Westchester County. Yorktown is not in a cluster zone. I repeat, Yorktown is not in a cluster zone. The state has designated cluster zones in Peekskill, Ossining, Tarrytown, New Rochelle, Yonkers, and Portchester. That's where there are cluster zones in Westchester County. We heard from the governor today that there's communities on the what he calls the warning track. I love baseball, so it makes a lot of sense to me. And that includes some of our neighbors to the north in Putnam County, specifically Brewster. Now, Peekskill, Ossining, which are, of course, our neighbors here in Yorktown, are designated yellow zones. Portchester, designated an orange zone. And we've talked about the different restrictions in each zone, but it's not about active caseload, it's about infection rate. That's what determines a cluster zone. So I understand and recognize that we have 175 active cases, but that number alone does not dictate a cluster zone for the town of Yorktown. What dictates a cluster zone is the infection rate. Now, we have not been provided that information. Again, I've asked, and I'm working with our partners on the county level, our county executive and his staff, as well as our county legislators, to try to obtain that information from the state. We believe we're getting close. So what we know is this. According to the state's dashboard, the county, Westchester County's positive infection rate yesterday, based on the tests, was at 5%. That's the entire county, including the cluster zone areas. The 7-day average for Westchester County is 4.2%. Now, those numbers are important because, according to the standards put forth by the state, in order for us to be designated a yellow zone, it would be a 2.5% infection rate over a 7-day rolling period. That's the average, and we have to maintain that for 10 days. So 2.5%, 7-day average for 10 days for yellow, and right now Westchester County is at 4.2. Not the town of Yorktown, because again, I don't have that data, but Westchester County. An orange zone would be 3%. Again, same time frame, 7-day rolling average, and again, for 10 days. As I stated earlier, the 7-day average currently for Westchester is 4.2%. And the red zone, a red zone which has the most restrictions, is at a 4.0% infection rate. Again, over a 7-day rolling average for 10 days. And the 7-day average here in Westchester is 4.2%. Now, the good news is that the state of New York, as I've explained before, focuses on zip codes and specific neighborhoods. So they're not doing a complete whitewashing of Westchester County with those numbers. And so they are diving deeper. They're diving deeper into specific communities, specific neighborhoods, going as far down as census tract data, which I think is terrific to see that kind of specificity in their approach. Unfortunately, to this point, we don't know what Yorktown's infection rate specifically is, nor do we know it by zip code. But we continue to work, as I stated, with our county executive and his staff, and we believe that we're going to get that data hopefully by next week. A few other updates that we heard today. The National Guard has been called into Westchester Airport. They are going to be there, and it sounds intimidating. I recognize that. But they're going to be there to check inbound flights from out of state to ensure those who are arriving on flights have the proper documentation, which was put forth by the state of New York. So if anybody does need to go to Westchester County Airport, please be advised that you will see a presence from the National Guard. Last Friday, we had Dr. Robert Amler from New York Medical College joining us. We had a very in-depth conversation about some of the do's and don'ts of COVID. We've talked about the vaccine. We talked about a whole host of issues. I would encourage all the residents of Yorktown to watch that video. It is playing, it has been playing on our government access channels. It is available on our YouTube page, on our website, and on our Facebook page as well. The one point, just to echo, that I think is very important, and that's Thanksgiving versus Christmas. And I understand the warnings that are being put out by our partners in government, but I think that Dr. Amler nailed it on the head when he did say that a quiet Thanksgiving ensures a better Christmas. And what I think he meant by that is if we take too much of a risk this Thanksgiving, you will and you may see either yourself or loved ones unfortunately fall ill and potentially hospitalized for Christmas, and that's not what we want to see. But all is not lost. We do have good news. We did talk about the vaccine. We did talk about a lot of positives that we've seen from the town of Yorktown. I call it, again, the Yorktown way, neighbors helping neighbors, being there for each other. And one of the ways that we're going to help, hopefully, bring in some additional holiday cheer is through our Holiday Lights Parade. Now, this has been a great, great event in the town of Yorktown for the past couple of years. It started, I believe, under Supervisor Michael Grace, and it really does signify here in Yorktown the start of the holiday season. And so we're going to continue that tradition. It's going to be a little bit different, obviously, with COVID. We want to make sure everyone's safe, but we're going to be doing it in a reverse parade. I want to thank our partners at the state, specifically Linda Cooper, former Yorktown supervisor, and we're going to hold the Holiday Lights Parade December 5th, 7 p.m. at FDR Park. It'll be a reverse parade, meaning that the floats will be stationary and that our residents and guests will be able to drive through FDR Park to see this year's floats and hopefully spark some holiday spirit as we continue to go through the challenges of 2020. And those challenges, as we've stated before, can be a bit intimidating. But I was reminded this past weekend of a quote from Helen Keller. And she stated, "Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much." And I think that embodies this community, our willingness and our grit and our determination and our toughness. And we've seen it before. Earlier this year, we saw it when we had to deal with a string of vandalism in January. We saw it when COVID was at its peak in the spring. And here we are again facing another round of adversity. But here in Yorktown, we don't back down from a fight. We lead from the front, and we will get through this together. And so we will continue to provide accurate and verified information to you, the public, so you can make the best decisions for yourselves, for your loved ones, and for your families. And it's really important, again, I've said this, I think, in the spring, but now, again, I ask to be a good neighbor, be a compassionate neighbor, be an understanding neighbor, be a patient neighbor. This is a very stressful time for many people. It really is. Now with the holidays upon us, even more so. So again, this is another opportunity for our community to shine. And I believe it absolutely will by showing the rest of Westchester County and frankly the world how to be good and thoughtful neighbors. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Yorktown.